Some Thursday morning motivation for you right there. So if you actually just wait for when you're confident, to get things done, you might never really get anything done. So just let that fear drive you, to do your best work and ultimately become your best self. Welcome to the conversation on TOS Television Network, your digital first Pan-African news network. And as always, the conversation comes to you every weekday, that's Mondays to Friday, from Abuja, Nigeria's capital city. My name is Adesu Sui. Moving straight into stories and happenings from across Africa, starting with Uganda. So for its role in conflicts in the Democratic Republic of Congo's resource-rich Ituri province, the International Court of Justice has ruled that Uganda must pay $325 million in reparations to Congo. The judges found that Uganda was responsible for the deaths of 10 to 15,000 people in the eastern Ituri region. And over to South Sudan, where some historical feat was achieved yesterday. Since the death of his last monarch more than 100 years ago, one of South Sudan's oldest kingdoms has been restored. On Wednesday, the great-grandson of King Budwe, who was killed by British officers on patrol in 1905, was installed in his palace as monarch of their Zande. And to Libya, Libyan Prime Minister early on Thursday, that's today, survived an apparent assassination attempt by unknown assailants, a source close to him said, amid intense factional wrangling over control of the government. The assailants struck the president with several rounds of bullets as he was returning home driving through the capital, Tripoli. The gunmen actually, fled the scene. And that's it for development across Africa here in the conversation. But before I proceed with the show, I'll bring you COVID-19 updates from across Africa. Yes, COVID is still out there, so you have to do your part to ensure that you're safe. So COVID-19 update from across Africa, and after that, it's straight into the big story. You're still watching the conversation on TOS Television Network. But before I proceed into the big story, you remember you should follow. You can be a part of the conversation actually. Just follow us across all social media platforms. That's TOS TV Network on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Subscribe to the channel on YouTube. It's TOS TV Network. And of course, the website is www.tostvnetwork.com. Straight into the big story. And today, we're going to be looking at something quite interesting. So the 2023 elections is gathering momentum. And quite a number of persons have been wondering, should they really, be involved in it? Like, why do I have to involve myself, in politics? And so today on the conversation, we're going to be looking at, can Nigerians afford not to be interested in or participate in politics? Yes, I would not be doing that conversation by myself. I have a guest with me in the studio. He is Desmond Otome, the publisher of Fresh News Online Media. Good morning and welcome to the show.
Good morning, Adesu. It's a pleasure being here.
Yes, the pleasure to actually have you. Moving straight into it. So there's a wide range of conception as to, what politics really is. If you get to ask a lot of young persons what politics means, I think they just have a stereotype as to what it is. But as an active young Nigerian yourself, how would you demystify the concept of politics?
Yes, I think it's unfortunate that the general perception we have about politics is that it's one dirty game, where some people who want to plunder the resources of a country get into some collusion and agree among themselves, seize power, and unleash terror on the people in the name of bad governance. That is what people would naturally think about politics. And that is the same reason that most people have decided to shy away from entering politics or participating in politics. But unfortunately, non-participating in politics, it's participation in politics in itself.
Because so?
Yeah, that is apathy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, when you decide not to participate, you have given room for those people you don't want to seize power. So you have encouraged them. You have aided and abated those same people to seize power. And when they take the power, what do? They govern you. They decide what your future is. They decide what you take. They decide what is allocated to you. They decide the kind of school you go to or your children go to. They decide the kind of healthcare services that you are provided with. They decide the kind of road that you are given. They decide the kind of water services, all kinds of services that is given to you by the government. So those same people you think they are not supposed to be, they are not qualified, they are playing the dirty politics, will now eventually lord it over you. Okay. That is why we must participate in politics. Okay. So politics itself is that act, if you don't mind, of coming together to decide what becomes the future, as a matter of fact, the present and the future of the people. Okay. So it's that decision that we must all make at the time.
You did mention earlier, Nigerian politics, as to people already coining it as a dirty game. Nigerian politics have I think for the longest been classified as class politics, where you have, some class of people, playing the game in itself. Yeah. And that has given relatively young Nigerians like myself valid reason to actually just stay away from it. I mean, but looking back, and then now looking ahead, do you think that we can continue, in that lack of interest in politics?
It's still unfortunate. I wouldn't know how it's come about that people now believe those who must play politics must be old people. That will have this perception of gerontocracy. The elderly must be the ones in politics, while the youth must form the bulk of the hoodlums, the touts, the thugs that they use to actualize their aim. That's unfortunate. I don't know how it came about it. Because I recall that in Nigeria, even though the forefathers were actually old people, in Nigeria at some point, those people that played politics were very young men. They came in at a very tender age, all right? And they became whatever they became. Even those that fought for the independence of Nigeria were actually young people who were vibrant, all right? Of course, most of them went to study abroad, but that was the only way they could actually attain education as at that time. Yeah. But today we have well-qualified people, young Nigerians, vibrant, all right, who are supposed to be participating in politics. But unfortunately, they have shied away from it. If you look at it very well, what does the Constitution say about the age qualification? It's just around 30. So if you are 30, you can be the president, you can be the governor, all right? I think it's about 30.
But it's one thing to follow what the Constitution says. Well, it's another thing to...
No, the first thing is, what does the law provide for? Okay. When you have satisfied the law, the next will now be, how are you able to galvanize yourself? All right? Before you now start talking about the resources you need. But unfortunately, we try to place the resources ahead of everything. But in this same country, I'm aware that some youth came together. All right? They were able to push through the law. Not too young to run, they call them. Yeah. All right? They were able to push through a law which provided for the youth to engage in politics. But unfortunately, even with that law, we've not actually been able to galvanize ourselves as young people to determine the fate of this country. Okay. But I think that is the direction we should be moving at this time around. Okay,
so what would be, as an active Nigerian yourself, what would be your first 3 points of call if you want to begin to now show young Nigerians that, look, you need to be actively involved in all of this? You did mention earlier, not participating is actually participating.
Very well.
Yes, to actually show them that. What will be your first 3 points of call?
Yeah, you have to remember, like I said before, if you do not participate, you have given room to those people whom you are not satisfied with. The question you have to ask yourself is that in the last almost 23 years, all right, that we came into democracy, we returned to democracy in Nigeria since 1999. Just reduce it to that 23 years. Have you been satisfied, or are you satisfied with the kind of leadership you've been given by these older people? Ask yourself that question. If you're satisfied, fine, allow them to continue. If you're not satisfied, then what are you going to do? Seek a change. Frantz Fanon was talking, he said that it is not enough for us to try to know our world, but to change it. And in changing it, you must first of all be angry with the system. You must first of all be discontented that you're no longer satisfied with what is happening in the system. Are you satisfied? If you're satisfied, of course you continue. If you're not satisfied, you seek a change. Okay. And every generation must realize their destiny. All right? And it is either you fulfill it or you betray it. That is another context of Frantz Fanon. So if you look at within that very context, you know that you have a future, you have a life, all right? Whether for you at this generation or for the generation to come, you must try to make a difference. So there must be this consciousness in the minds of the young people to start thinking of creating a better today for the people and, of course, for the generation to come.
Okay.
If we are not ready to play politics, if we are not ready to contribute, if we are not ready to decide our fate today, of course, tomorrow might just be worse.
Okay.
So not satisfying with, or rather the dissatisfaction we have from what we have seen today and yesterday should be the motivating force, the propeller for us, to push us rather to entering politics and deciding what happens to us tomorrow.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much for joining me on the conversation this morning. It was a pleasure to have you.
Thank you for having me.
Well, you've heard it. You have to be actively involved in politics. If you're not participating, you're actually just participating. Thank you for sticking with me on the conversation up until this time. Remember, that conversation comes back to you tomorrow. But before then, follow TOS TV Network across all social media platforms. Subscribe to the channel on YouTube. It's TOS TV Network. And of course, you can stream our content on www.tostvnetwork.com. Thank you again. I'll be back here tomorrow. And until then, see you next time.